Hey guys, welcome to video 3 where we're going to talk about important FBA account settings. So, to find your settings for your FBA account, you're going to go to your Seller Central here, sellercentral.amazon.com. You're going to go ahead and sign in, and this is the page it's going to bring you to. Up here in the top right is your settings, and there's a whole bunch of different options right here. For right now, we're just going to talk about the Fulfillment by Amazon settings. So let's go here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what each of these means. So under optional services, and by the way, you want your settings set up just like I have mine set right now, because this is the way I want you to set them up for getting started with Amazon. So under this optional services thing, there's a couple, people might say a couple different things here, but in my opinion, this is the easiest way for a new person to get started. You want to have MWS label service enabled. And that basically says I'm going to label my own items, which what we're going to do is we're going to, anytime we buy an item, instead of using the UPC code that's on the back and just sending it in with everybody else's inventory, we're going to put a sticker over the UPC code that says it belongs to us. So when somebody orders our product, we know exactly what they're getting because we're the ones that sent it in. So those labels identify it as JSam's product. So here under web services, you're going to say I will label my items, and this is where people disagree with me some, and it's just my opinion. Okay, so under the default of who labels and who preps, I label everything I send in. I label, and most people do. The reason being is you can have Amazon label your products for like a 20-cent an item fee, I think, which isn't that bad when you think about the work you put into it. But the problem is competency. If you send in, for example, an item that has a blue version and a red version and a green version, you're putting it in the hands of an employee to decide that they're putting the right sticker on the right product. So eventually you could run into an issue where a consumer orders something from you expecting the red version, and they get the yellow version with a red version sticker on it, and then it's not on you, you know. So at least this way you take that little bit of responsibility into your business, and I think it's majorly important. So definitely label your own items, in my opinion and most people's opinion. But on the default for who preps, a lot of people leave this as the merchant, as themselves. They say, well, I'm going to prep my own products. Well, I do prep my own products. So when I say prep, we're talking about making sure that if it requires a poly bag that has a no choke label on it, which we'll talk a little bit more about what items require that, but that's apparel, shoes, toys that have like an open front, basically anything that could get damaged in the warehouse by rubbing up or touching on other stuff that needs to be protected by something. Like all clothing goes in a poly bag. But the thing is, even though I do prep my own stuff before I send it in, I leave this setting checked, because if you're not careful, what will happen is if you were to send in an item that you forgot to poly bag or you didn't think to poly bag, and they get it, you can get a black mark on your account, and they will not prep it for you. They will ship it back to you. And so that's the interesting part there, is that if you have this selected, they will only prep a product that you were supposed to prep and did not. So I leave that on as a security feature for me, not having to get black marks on my account. So moving on this inbound settings, I want you to go ahead and go over here to edit. We're going to change your settings here. Mine, I had something different on here, but I want you to have distributed inventory placement on. So the reason you're going to have that on is basically this is saying, when I go in and create a shipment, I want you to tell me what warehouses to send my items to. That way, let's say you have 20 items and they want it to go to 3 different warehouses, they're going to make you make 3 shipments. And when you're starting out, in my opinion, that's okay to do, because your products get there faster. they get to the consumer faster, so you can get them sold. And like I always talk about, as a part of taking action, when you're first starting, I think this is one area that you should just be doing. You should just straight up ship as many boxes as you possibly can and send it to the places where they want you to send it. Now, I'll talk about inventory placement service, which is what I use sometimes, but not all the time. I use inventory placement service intermittently. I turn it on and off. And the reason I do that is because whenever I'm creating a shipment, if I have, we'll say 200 items going in, if I look at the shipment and I realize, oh, they're going to make me send this to 20 different places, I'm not gonna pack 20 boxes. So what I'll do is I'll select inventory placement service, and what they will do is they will take it all at 1 or 2 warehouses, generally speaking, and unless it's got some oversized items in it, and then sometimes you can have a third one. But it sends it all to one place, and then they charge a per unit fee to send those items to the different warehouses that you need to go. It all depends on what your work schedule looks like and how many hours you have to prep and whatnot. But when you're first starting, just do distributed inventory placement. And the reason I say that is because it's going to teach you about the whole idea. It's going to tell you, okay, well, this is the warehouses I generally always send to. This is kind of how Amazon decides what they're going to put where, and it gives you a feel for the business. So after a while, and we'll talk more about this inventory placement service, but after a while, we'll talk about when this is really good to use, especially like leading up to Q4, but not during Q4. There's some strategies behind that. But for now, let's go distributed. We want to enable show restricted items, and we also want to enable show listing approval warnings, and don't worry about 2D barcodes. So we're going to go ahead and update that. See how when I clicked update, it tells me up at the top that everything has succeeded. So your settings so far should look like this. Okay, under repackage settings. So we do want to have this on. Basically what this says is that if they receive a return from a customer, they'll look it over, and if it's still in sellable new quality, then they will send it back out. Here's the deal. You have to be careful. Under this enabled product categories, there are certain things that you don't want to have on. And let's go in here. I left mine on so that we could go in and change this. So under this setting, we want to have it on, and I have this auto enroll in any new added categories, just in case, because a lot of people are having problems getting ungated in different categories and whatnot, and I want to know immediately if there's a new category that becomes available. So anyway, under product categories here, you're going to want to turn off apparel, fashion, and shoes. And the reason being is if somebody were to wear a t-shirt and wear it for a day with the tags on, decide they don't like it, package it back up, yet again, you're putting it in the hands of an Amazon employee to decide whether or not you would send that to a customer. And it's not that they're incompetent per se in that area, but what you want and what that guy wants are two different things. And you would really hate for your customer to receive a pair of shoes that are scuffed up, or a t-shirt that smells like somebody's cologne, or any of those things. So I leave those off so that if I get a return in those categories, they just come back to me. So yeah, so we're going to move on down here to automated unfulfilled removal settings, and I have these disabled because I like to go in and decide what's coming back to me and when. There's a little report that's real easy to look at, and they will let you know up at that flag at the top up there when you have your first stranded inventory. Otherwise, you'll get an email. I think a couple different types of emails for these things, but I have it disabled because I like to decide when things come back to me. So automated long-term storage removal settings. I have this disabled, and we're going to talk more about long-term storage fees, but do not overthink it. There are a lot of people out there who will not take action in this business because they're afraid of it. And legitimately, there is nothing to be afraid of. I pay less than $100, maybe a quarter, a year, I don't know. But I keep a lower inventory, but I have higher profit margins. So we'll talk more about that though. So here on Allow Amazon to Buy My Products to Sell Globally, I have this enabled. It's kind of a new setting. I have yet to have Amazon do that, but we'll go ahead and enable it because, hey, if they're willing to pay you what you have as your asking price, then who cares if they buy it or anybody else. So under barcode preferences, Amazon barcode, I have subscribe and save disabled because a lot of my stuff I'm not sending in multiples of throughout the whole year. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know a lot about the subscribe and save feature under the subscription settings, but I would assume that it would need to be a SKU that you can keep in stock all the time. So that's why I have that disabled. I don't know anybody personally that uses this. The multi-channel fulfillment settings, yeah, I don't worry about this because I'm not having Amazon fulfill orders for other outlets at this time. I was, a while back, I was having them fulfill some eBay orders where I was co-listing eBay items on Amazon, which you can do, but you do need to come back in here and mess with these. But for now, do not worry about it. Product support, handle customer questions from Amazon.com, disabled. Export settings, FBA global export, and enable giveaways for Amazon, disabled. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff right now. We're just trying to get you on to your first sale. So those are the FBA settings you need to set up. So one last thing is you need to go back over here to settings. Just click on the settings button. And you want to make sure that your account is a professional selling account because that's going, and that's what we talked about in the first video, the $39.99 thing you signed up for, but you need to make sure that is enabled. And like I said, that saves you money. Actually, rather than costing you money, it saves you money. So that has to be enabled for some of the stuff we're going to talk about next. And sponsored products should be good, register, whatever. All this should look exactly like mine. So anywho, that's all you need for now. And in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to analyze a product to sell on Amazon. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you in video 4.